Morning, plant nerds, bird nerds, gardeners, nature nuts, whatever you would like to describe yourself as. I'm Grant, I'm a horticulturist. This is Habitat Gardening. Today I want to talk about lawns. And I want to hear your attitude to lawns, and I want to advance the argument that we have reached the point, certainly in most parts of Australia, where a lawn must be viewed as a luxury, and we should stop incorporating lawns as a major feature in all garden designs. And I have two arguments for that. The first is that the lawn takes so much water to maintain that it is really not justifiable in most instances. To give you an idea, I just trawled a whole bunch of lawn maintenance sites this morning, and from some of the sellers of instant turf, which is one of the banes of modern society, in my view, only outmatched or outranked by artificial turf, artificial lawn. 1,200 litres a week for a 50 square metre patch of lawn is what you need to maintain a lawn. And that is not including drought conditions. In drought conditions, it may require more. But we have become so conditioned that no home is complete without a luxurious lawn that we forget the environmental cost of maintaining those lawns. And what I would like people to just think about is how often you actually use your patch of lawn, and what do you get out of your patch of lawn, and could you get the same thing from managing or creating, developing your garden in a different way. And the things I would like you to think about is looking out at a nice lawn is nice, but we've been conditioned in a very Anglo cultural kind of sense that is what is required to have peace and serenity. We have a lawn and nice garden beds. But in some climates, that is not really something that we can justify when we can create that sense of serenity and peace and beauty. And it's a very traditional sense of beauty from an Anglo colonial cultural sense. It's a very European sense to be looking out on a lawn and thinking that your garden is complete and beautiful and peaceful. But we can create the same kind of thing with a meadow effect or a grassland effect, some kind of woodland effect, which is really successful on larger suburban blocks, without needing the same amount of water to maintain the health, the productiveness of that micro habitat, that micro ecological system that you create. And if you live if you live in a community where there is already a battle over access to water between agriculture and perhaps other industries like mining and domestic use, just think ahead maybe 50 years with the inevitable population growth in your region, and to think that most homes will be putting in a lawn, and the lawn areas, front and back, will generally be much more than 50 square metres, and 50 square metres per week requires 1,200 litres of water. And just think how much water that lawn is taking from the community in general. It's a lot. If you are not retaining water on your property to use on a lawn, then you're taking it from the community. And indeed, if you are retaining water, that's water that's not getting into the catchment somewhere else, or perhaps not being reclaimed somewhere else. Now, in Melbourne, we haven't had water restrictions for many years, but a lot of the homes around here still have signs saying watered from tank water, and we did have a period of water restrictions, and they will come again. And every community, particularly in Australia, will be living with shortages of water. There is a finite amount of water on the planet, and we cannot keep adding an increasing demand for ornamental uses that have really no benefit, that cannot be replicated in some other way. So, what does a lawn give us in terms of valuable habitat in a domestic, or even over a suburb, even if we extend the scale over suburbs? And I would say very little that can't be replicated and improved in other ways. Something people often say to me is that the magpies, Australian magpies, forage on the lawn, and they do, because you do get worms and cockchafers, beetle larvae, and other arthropods living in the root zone. But they will also live somewhere else in a garden if you allow them to, if you don't tidy it up so much that they don't have places to live. What do you think magpies were doing before colonisation? How do you think they were getting food before we started creating lawns? Of course they were doing fine. So you can replicate the same feeding opportunities for those birds by planting native grasses and letting them be tussocks, letting them be edges to your garden beds. You can let a meadow effect occur, where you will then get in that same space of ground, while still having all the critters that are at the root zone, ground level. You'll also have all the pollinators and their larvae. You'll have spiders. You'll have a whole lot of animals using that area, that space. Let's use the same measurements, 50 square metres. Now, not many lawns are only 50 square metres, because 50 square metres is 5 metres by 10, or basically 7 by 7. Now, if you want space to have a cricket pitch in your backyard, well, what's a cricket pitch? 22 metres plus the run-ups and the width. You're talking several hundred square metres. Then there's that extra effort involved in maintaining it, apart from the water that is used. Now, I do understand that for some families, they need the space if they have dogs and young kids. But perhaps you can uh, modify your lifestyle a little bit so that your community spaces become recreation spaces. Now, that's a different issue, but in the most part, most households uh, do not need lawns. And I would love to see a reaction against the property marketing. I know I'm going a little bit off topic, but just sit down one night and I mean, the news now runs ads. Well, they're supposed to be news items, but they're just ads for some property that's for sale coming up this week or the week after. And everything's got things like big luxurious lawns and lap pools and things like this that most people don't need and will not use. So we shouldn't be making these things the norm. And if you care about your local wildlife, you will get much better value and much better peace of mind and much better connection to nature. I do agree that there is something really valuable in taking your shoes off and going standing on some grass, but it doesn't need to be lawn. It, you know, native grasses and grass-like substitutes provide habitat that lawn just doesn't. And I was hoping we'd get some people wanting to argue the point with me. Because when I advance this, and I often do in public, and years ago I used to do public talks about replacing lawns, and I always had the example of, but the magpies feed on my lawn. Well, yeah, they do, because there's a specific type of animal. Generally, it's beetle larvae that are feeding on the roots of your lawns, but then people are using really nasty chemicals, forever chemicals, to stop that pest. So you may in fact be poisoning the birds and the animals that do utilise the lawn while you're trying to stop a pest that occurs in the lawn because it's the lawn. The same kind of pests don't occur as pests in a natural replication of a habitat like a wild style garden can be. It's why you see ibis on playing fields, on ovals, footy grounds, cricket grounds, and broader belts of parkland because of those beetle larvae. Now, I just think that lawns are basically a lush and green desert in an urban setting. So, what I would like to know, if you would like to join in, is, do you have a lawn? How much do you actually use it? Like, how much utility does it give to your garden space? And if you do have a lawn, let's extend it a little bit more, would you consider other options to use that space that would be more wildlife friendly? So I'll just stick around and see if we're going to get that kind of input. The amount of effort that it takes to maintain a lawn before it becomes scrappy wasteland in a garden setting is immense as well. And you could get those hours back. You could sit on your porch or gaze out your window at a range of other wildlife utilizing that space if you wanted. You will get butterflies and other insects, pollinators. You will get the birds that feed on those insects that utilize a wilder space. You just will not get much use by any animals of your lawn. I'm thinking, I'm really trying hard to see. I often see birds like willy wagtails hawking insects above lawn spaces. I often see swallows and martins taking insects above a lawn space, but I also see them taking insects everywhere else. I think one of the most practical ways to turn a lawn area into a diverse habitat is to turn it into some kind of water feature or water features. That's a really easy way. And then you can introduce like a marshy fringe around your little water feature. And that gives opportunities for, if you're lucky, native fish, amphibians, reptiles that you won't have on a lawn. You will get birds utilising water in your garden that they won't be utilising that space as lawn. But the easiest thing to do is to extend your garden. If you have your yard organised so that you have garden beds that are pretty much full, just extend the edges to be a bit wilder. Put in tussocky plants, small clumping ground covers. Allow some spreading ground covers. If you want just coverage over the ground so that you don't get weeds, well, plant a Myoporum parvifolium, the prostrate form, or Cannedias, or some of the really vigorous ground cover grevilleas, or Banksias. And they'll do the job of weed suppression for you. You can still look out on a fairly tidy open space, but you'll have the benefit of wildlife using the flowers, eating the seeds, fossicking, looking for invertebrates under the branches of a ground cover. They'll still come and scratch around and look for things to eat. Clumping plants, tufting plants will offer shelter for some of the smaller birds and reptiles, amphibians. You're going to find frogs in amongst them. So I'll leave it open to challenge. Tell me, and we're going to have to do it in the comments, and we're going to have a debate in the comments over time. If you wouldn't consider getting rid of your lawn and putting that space to some other use in a habitat garden, tell me why. And be honest. Is it about property values? Is it about resale? Is it about what people expect in a garden? I'm open to. Well, I understand that is some kind of consideration. But if you live in a home that you do not intend to leave, certainly in the short term or medium term, why are you maintaining a lawn? Let me know. I would love to know. I would love to know. Now, I'm looking um, at the times ahead coming up. We have 2 more Saturdays before Christmas, and then the 27th of December. Now, my plan is to just keep going right through the whole holiday period. I need to have a look at January. What have we got on Saturdays? Yep, I'll just keep going right through the whole period, I believe. But I'd be interested if anyone's got any suggestions of what you would like me to cover, perhaps in the holiday period. Is there a special group of plants you'd like me to talk about? Would you like me to do something more about water? I've reached out to many people for interviews. No one's going to talk to me in December and January in Australia. That's just silly season, holiday season. People are doing things other than waiting to jump onto a live stream on a Saturday morning. And I suspect many of our regular contributors are doing something other than sitting at home jumping on a live stream this morning. I mean, it has become Christmas party time, catching up with everyone time. I totally understand it. So I hope everyone is out there enjoying their own garden, their friends' gardens, their families' gardens, and looking around and getting some ideas. Perhaps we might just talk about next week a few easy things to do. Do make sure that you have jumped onto thebirdemergency.com/YouTube, because at the end of the year I'm going to stop streaming all these simulcasts over to Facebook. We will just be sticking with YouTube, and I'll be making use of the other. We'll talk about that afterwards. So before we wrap up, I'd love to know: do you have a garden? Do you have a lawn in your garden? Are you utilising the lawn space? And would you consider putting your lawn to some other use? A watercourse is a fantastic way to utilise the space. That will be so much more valuable. But remember, you must be doing reciprocated water, and you need to cut down on evaporation if you are doing that. But for the amount of water that you use on maintaining a lawn, if you use the same amount on providing watering opportunities to to your local wildlife, you will be far more valuable for that wildlife. So have I convinced you? Have I convinced you that your lush, green, beautiful lawn is in fact a desert from the point of view of your local wildlife? Or do your local wildlife come in and use your lawn all the time? Is it just foraging for the pest species that you are trying to eradicate from your lawn, which is basically what the magpies are doing, and the magpie larks? That's basically what they're doing on your lawn. They are not going, oh wow, a lawn, that's the pristine habitat, let's get down there. As I mentioned before, magpies, magpie larks, I think they were doing fine before we started imposing colonial style lawns on our urban and suburban habitats. So that's going to be that for this morning. We got in quick. We're out quick. I would like to remind you that if you do want to support the bird emergency and habitat gardening, there is a membership opportunity for this month. You can, if you sign up at thebirdemergency.com/coffee on Buy Me a Coffee as a member and take out the annual membership, I will send you a dozen, and actually for December we're making it 2 dozen, 2 dozen plants, tube stock, 50ml tube stock, when they're ready to be sent, of my habitat gardening selection, which at this stage is including mostly plants that are for nectar feeding birds and animals in the garden. But I am working on some ground covers as well, and who knows, depending on how interested people are, we might go for a pollinators dozen as well. It's a mixed dozen. It will depend on when the different varieties are ready for sending out, when I do send them out. At the moment, I'm looking at April will be the first dispatch. It may be March. Some of them are doing quite well, but to get the 12, it will be, I think, March, early April. So there we are. And I might throw in another bonus. Oh, I should let you know too, the Desolation Dodo is available. If you want the Desolation Dodo t-shirt, I'll talk about that more in on the Bird Emergency. You can just message me and let me know, and we'll work out the best way, depending on where you live, the best way to get you that t-shirt, shirt, or hoodie. I do know that because you're in different parts of the world, there are different ways to get it to you, to get the best quality shirt, t-shirt, hoodie to you in but I'll talk about that more on Monday or Tuesday next week. I'm Grant. I'm a horticulturist. I'm a bird nerd as well. This has been Habitat Gardening on... Oh, someone's just collided in. Let's see if whoever's just joined on the YouTube would like to tell me if they have a lawn and if they would consider giving it up. If they don't have a lawn, why not? Why not? That is the question I would like to know. I really do want to start railing against this norm that everybody needs. Every house needs a lawn to be saleable or to be a family-friendly dwelling. In most cases, people who are buying homes or buying houses with gardens don't have a family. Don't have the stereotypical young family that will be doing its exercising on the lawn in the backyard. That's just a fallacy in most cases. All right, folks. Very disappointed, but I know we're getting into silly season here in Australia. I would have loved to have the debate this morning about lawns. Maybe I'm going to have to be more controversial about what lawns are. I'm Grant. I'm a horticulturist. I already said that. I'm a bird nerd. I'll see you next Saturday, I hope, 9:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time for this time of the year, and for more habitat gardening. Otherwise, make sure you subscribe to thebirdemergency.com/YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed and you can catch the next Bird Emergency stream. See ya.